Hello, everybody. So today I had the pleasure of interviewing ShayLa of the Yahyel, channeled by Ivet. We go into all kinds of different topics and questions about her on a personal level, but also the Yahyel as a species. So I really, really hope you enjoy the conversation.
Hello, James. I'm finally here.
Hello,
I've been
ShayLa.
waiting. I've been waiting and watching as you were.
Oh, it's an immense pleasure and honor to be able to ask you some questions today in an effort to kind of share a bit more about you and the IL with our listeners. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes, I have to thank you as well, both of you, for giving me this opportunity to share in a different way. The energy will be shared in a different way than usually when people are asking their own personal questions, because right now I have more space to share from our side with less limits.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially as we did some videos before with Yvette sharing from her point of view. So let's kick off then. The first question is, can you give us an idea of who you are and where you're from?
So yes, of course. I guess as you know, but maybe listeners don't know exactly. Yahyel is the race that I identify with, and we are a hybrid race between, humans and greys. That is a story that have been told in many different ways already. So I'm not sure if you want me to go into details about it.
Maybe a very, very brief summary for those who may not be as familiar, if you'd be happy
Yes.
to.
Okay. So, in the past, you are aware of, and many people are aware of that there have been certain abductions done by races, gray type of races, aliens, who identify as like having large head, being grayish of skin color, and big black eyes, and uh, they are a certain variation of as well humanoid being or humans, that they were losing certain connection to source and their true nature and soul connection. So they have been reproducing themselves through cloning, and they knew that they were dying off. And there are several different type of races, because even in between your race, human race, you have a different type of, let's say, species in a way of humans. So they have been like different variations of them as well, with the different intentions, different way of approaching humans as well. So they uh, came into this reality, into your reality, to co-create with you. As in the past, many different races have been co-creating in you in different ways, sometimes more negative, sometimes positive ways. And this was, I would say, more of a neutral co-creation. Of course, there have been certain groups that were approaching humans in a more negative way, but from the lineage, let's say, that the Yahyel came from, it was more of like a neutral intention to create really something new, so they can continue in a certain way as a hybrids. They at least initially they wanted to uh, make themselves a little bit more functioning than they have been before they lost through cloning certain abilities. So they created certain, hybrids that are still looking very much like a gray type of aliens or beings. But later their knowledge or understanding of what they lost came back to them, and they continued evolving themselves or through hybridization and creating new beings. For example, one of them, that is a hybrid race that is more different from their original clones, let's say. and it's Sasani. Many people know about this race as well. And then there are another type of hybrids that are us. They are more even closer, let's say, to humans as you are right now, and we co-create with you in slightly different ways than, for example, Sasani, because there are slightly different beings and that we are, and we have a certain different approaches to humans because we are more aligned with you in a certain ways, I would say more positive ways, and we have a as well opportunity to share with you how you can evolve yourself with your current DNA to be more as well like us, because we had that opportunity to start a little bit further on let's say evolution point of human type of beings or humanoids.
Mm. So in terms of where you are, you're in a slightly higher vibrational plane, right?
Yes, you could understand it as an etheric space or plane. It's a kind of like in between astral plane and your plane. There are many different, realities or uh, planes, if you want to say it that way, like that are slightly shifted. I would say realities really that are slightly shifted in the vibration of the tuning or vibrational tuning. So, um, in a certain ways, yes, it's you could understand it as a slightly higher vibration that you have, but at the same time as well, it's at the same time like a shifted reality, parallel reality. You could say it as well, or see it that way as well, because we can interact with your physical reality, be here. Reason why you don't see us is because we have a vibration is altered, that is more of like etheric vibe, let's say, something similar to what you have on earth, like fairies, for example, fairy realm. So we are in very similar vibration that we can um, interact with the fairies, for example, and those kind of beings from your etheric realm more, and they can see us, we can see them. So we are of that kind of vibration, and but we are not so grounded into your reality still, like for example, fairy realm is. But it is kind of like vibration that you as well can, if you would be able to reach vibration or seeing into fairy realm, you would be able to as well more easily see us as well.
Mm, okay. And that's why I guess when people are sort of entering their dream state at night, that's where the area vibrationally where more contact can be had, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, because you are kind of like losing certain grasp of your 3D reality, of your body, of your energy, and you are entering to more of like expanded consciousness that you have easier access to subconsciousness, or subconscious part of yourself is basically unconscious part that is wider consciousness, that more expanded consciousness. So that's why, of course, you can um, feel like even your other senses are more expanding, more like a hearing or seeing into other dimensions. So yes, that is also a reason why you are able to have more contact experiences in the between those states. But it
Okay.
of course doesn't mean that it's only way to have them, because it can be expanded into your more awake state as well, of course.
Mm. So in terms of, again, just to kind of give an idea to those watching, you have your own home planet, right?
Yes, there is a certain planet, if you want to call it a home planet, that was kind of like, let's say, original,
Mm.
that we have been seeded on, let's say, that way, seeded on, because we didn't evolve in a way like you did, for example, on Earth, that although you have a extraterrestrial DNA and there was interference with the extraterrestrial DNA, you still have been a species on Earth. They have been certain way evolving. So we have been more of like those seeds being seeded on a planet, and later we of course expanded in visiting some other planets as well. But we are as well type of beings that we can live as well outside of the planet that we were like originally from. So we can very comfortably live also in a space with
Mm.
our technology, but also it's not like maybe we don't have issues with living in a space, for example, like you have with your current technology when you are there most of the time in the uh, space that has no gravitation, so your body is kind of like
Yeah.
deteriorating thing.
Yes. Yeah.
so so yes, we can live full time in the space as well.
Mm. Mm. Okay. And on a personal level, sort of where do you yourself grow up? And was it on the planet or in space?
I was uh, being born in a space, but partially I was then living on our planet as well, of the first one, the main one as well, because when we are born, our parents have kind of like what is the call? What is the word for it? Like a tradition. Let's
Mm.
say tradition is the best word that I can find right now. That is natural for them to bring us to home planet, because there is like very kind of like concentrated our collective consciousness there. So babies and small children are being brought there to be brought up in the most natural environment for our consciousness, in our like a home, because it's space where we have a like a very grounded in a grounded way our society, all the systems and everything. So there are many children of on our home planet, and sometimes there is more of like adults somewhere in a space. So later I was also brought up to other, planets, of course, when I was growing up. But when I was smaller, as a child, I was in the like throughout, let's say, first years up to what you could understand to be like teenager level of me. I was still mostly in our home planet, or on our home planet. But of course later I was also exploring and going on the ships and so on. And then after a certain point, when I wanted to, or I was ready to kind of like become like other adults, that I would have a certain bigger role in our collective, in our society, that I would get a job, let's say. I would use that analogy. Then I went out of our home planet, and to actually joining our crew that is connected with the open contact and connecting with the humans in a way that we are doing right now.
Mm. And you touched upon sort of the children in your society. Can you share with us a few words about what it is like to be a child in your society, perhaps in comparison to that on the Earth?
Yes, so as I said, that we are being brought up most of the time. It's this tradition. But tradition doesn't mean that it's coming from the mind. It's coming from the heart. The logic comes from heart of doing it. So when we are being brought up on our planet, our home planet, we are in a collective of many children, of course, some adults who are, of course, there all the time. Who would you kind of like consider as caretakers as well? Of course, our parents, and they come to the planet with us as well for that time of being when we need it. But they sometimes, of course, because they have some other business, they need to go as well out of the planet. But we are there is our home for some time. And we are brought up in very specific way, teaching us to uh, mm, let's say compared with the humans, for example, we are brought up in a way that we don't have any traumas. Let's say we don't have any limits on put on our mind. We are in a very safe space to explore and expand our consciousness fully and completely without any restrictions, really. Um, and we are being stimulated through certain games and certain communal uh, meetings, and we have a lot of space to explore, recreate things, be creative through art or other forms of expression. And also we have later, of course, if a child is being interested in learning still more and more, that's not if, but it's more like when question, then we would be desiring to learn more about other things, like it would be kind of like our desire, like where we want to go with our life, with our life team. We would be attracted to certain topics. Some can be attracted to more of like our technology and details of very specific details of how it works. Of course, in a general, we understand it because it's kind of like part of our collective consciousness as well, and we are brought up in a society. Like your children right now are very much in the technological, sphere and influences, and they learn very fast, because they are in the environment. So we have been also, of course, all the time in that environment. But as I said, some want to kind of like go further in it, discovering more and expanding our technologies as well, and so on. Some others can feel guidance to, or drive to connect with the different ideas and topics. For example, with me, it was as well other races, other type of beings that would be explored as a collective. And so with both type of races we had a connection, so what we explore. So it's kind of like our present history in a way,
Right.
because it's always in the present, but it's a kind of like history is in the present of our species. So I was exploring that, and of course our origins as well. That is something that we are thought or we understand from the very very early age as well, because that's very natural information in our collective as well. And so I was very attracted to as well to contact with the humans, and basically the time frame where you are opening up to collective consciousness. So I was being mm, kind of like drive into
Yeah.
this specific time frame as well, to connect with the humans and work on this particular part of our history together.
So when you mentioned there you were driven to come and interact with this particular time frame, if there was a way to make a comparison as to your native time frame right now as we're talking, well, could we sort of put it at a certain number of years from our linear perspective in our future? Where would you be from, for example, 200-300 years in the future, or?
Yeah, like at the same time, as I said in the beginning, we are in a parallel
Mm,
universe as well,
yeah.
and it's different than basically what we are interacting with you right now in where you are.
Mm,
So, but yeah, there is a link that I can kind of like compare, that is in your future, in your, let's say, advanced future, but still not in the same reality as of your future. Your future with us will be different in a way than where we kind of like originate from, the reality that we originate from, and that could be understood to be about it depends, because um, our race has a time frame as well, so it's in between plus 300 to 1,000 years
right.
in the
Wow.
future for you.
But we're co-creating this new co-created experience
Yeah,
together
definitely.
right now. That's what this
Yes,
is
yes.
all about. Yeah.
You can look at the parallel realities as well, or parallel universes in a way, like cities. You have a separated cities, and they connect with the roads. So it's
Mm,
like this is one city is like this reality that I just described, and there is a different reality that is our connected future, and that is this another city. And it's, of course, everything is connected, but
mm,
it's kind of like it's not like excluding itself, like your future would be something like this, and it doesn't mean that this reality would disappear. It still would exist, but it would be like mm, interconnected. So yeah, we are creating different reality together as well.
yeah. And so you guys have a sort of large ship that's, I guess, I know it's in a different shifted reality, but it would be in relative terms close-ish to where we are in the galaxy, right?
Uh, if you are referring to mothership that is
Yeah.
close to Earth, that we are kind of, and you most of the time are connecting with, is in within your universe, within your reality. But
Mm,
yes, it's a shifted frequency, let's say, in a way, and of course, it's not observed by your eyes or technology, but it's still that is within your universe, and it's just. Somewhere in between Earth and Mars, so it's very close. It's
oh
kind of like
wow.
on
Okay.
your orbit, very close,
Mm,
but it's not kind of like interfering with other uh, important energy flows and gravitational fields and so on.
yeah.
So we are able to be invisible in many different ways. Because, for example, if we would be interfering with the gravitational fields of the planets, your scientists would know that we are
Yeah.
there. That
Yeah.
something is there.
Hmm. Okay. So in terms of your interaction with the Earth, what would you say is the stage that we're at right now in terms of the interactions between yourself personally and the people that the humans that you interact with and the Yahyel as a whole? What sort of activities are unfolding in this time?
Okay. I didn't understand properly first,
Hmm.
like what you meant, but um, yeah, like we interact with the humans, obviously, in many different ways. It depends on very much on individual what they want to explore. So there are different, ways of how we interact with the humans, and it also comes from what we are doing as a race as well right now. For example, within your time frame. You know that we have been working on a hybridization program. So let's call it that way in a way. So we have been creating children with you that are hybrids, but also with the other races. But even this is already shifting to different direction as well, because we are already initiating another stage of connection or contact with you, that is personal relationships. Sometimes, of course, it can be for channeling, and it's like you are connecting, or human is connecting with their counterpart, and other times it can be in more romantic ways, and that is another kind of like very important stage
Hmm.
of contact. And we are basically co-creating um, different type of children. You could call them hybrid children in a certain way, but they are not a produce of typical way of how we are doing in like a more general way hybrid children. This is more personal. It's
Hmm.
coming from the personal connection with the human that I have, for example, with this channel, and
Yeah.
you have, and there are many more that are opening to this
Hmm.
type of connections, or will be opening up still. And these type of connections are as well something very specific, that is as well kind of like a measuring tape, or signal, a sign of where you are in the connection or contact with the extraterrestrial, or at least our race. When we are approaching this level of intimacy,
Hmm.
and being conscious of it, it's giving you sign of that our realities are really coming closer and closer together and merging into more of equal exchange and partnership.
Yeah, I had actually got a question which you've kind of already going into about that, but could you go into a little bit more about the twin flame relationship specifically, what the connection really means on a spiritual level, and why on the higher levels, I guess it's being used in the context of relationships between humans and hybrid races.
Yes, of course, twin flame connection doesn't have to be only with humans and extraterrestrials or hybrid races. It's a general term, but it is manifesting within this type of connections, and sometimes it doesn't as well have to be twin flame connection if you want to call it that way. It's always on the individual to find out what is their true relationship and connection with the being they are most attracted to, if it's a hybrid. And sometimes it can be as well defined like more like a soulmate type of connection, but still dynamics of it are same, because it doesn't matter if it's soulmate or twin flame relationship. These two beings are still merging on an energetic level, opening up to each other. So of course they're exchanging energies. You are kind of like uploading your human part of consciousness into ours, and we are kind of like grounding our part of collective consciousness through you into
Mm.
your reality as well. So it happens each time when um, two beings, human and let's say hybrid, are interconnecting in more intimate ways as well, because it depends on all um, levels of chakras when you are connecting with, because those lower chakras are connected with your physical realm. So when you are connecting in this way, you are of course bringing our vibration into your physical realm through if I if I can say the in this way, through basically act of sex,
Mhm.
because it's the most grounded way to kind of like bring, and fullest way to bring us into this reality. Because when, for example, channeler doesn't have intimate connection with their counterpart, they are still grounding even through the root chakra their energy, but in a different way. When you add fuller connection there, that is usually next step is romantic type of connection, is
Mm.
that it just opens up even more and grounds it even more into other type of collective energies, let's say, in a way. But of course it's mostly about the human and the hybrid that they're connecting with.
Yeah,
And
mm.
there is still a little bit more of energy or effect within the twin flame connection, and that is general. It doesn't have to be, as I said, only with the extraterrestrials. So because even humans can have their human twin flame, or they can have twin flame in the spirit, and it always is a twin flame connection about something even beyond that, beyond the personal connection or the connection of the species, because it's going, the ripples of that creation are even way stronger than soulmate connections, and they ripple through universe, and they shift and change a lot of other things, because co-creation through the orgasmic energy uh, is the strongest, let's say, energy of love and creation together. It is very explosive, very it holds a lot of creational energy within it, uh, and a very positive charge. So when it's when it when it kind of like explodes through that connection, and of course it doesn't have to be, when I'm speaking about orgasmic energy, it doesn't have to be as well through sexual connection. That orgasmic energy between twin flames is created even with whatever type of connection, co-creation, sharing of emotions, thoughts, and just merging their hearts together and bringing their co-creation in whatever form of like art or writing or, for example, channeling and other whatever, you know, ways of bringing it into other type of creations or even creating children. All that is coming from energy that I would say is orgasmic,
Mm.
and it creates the waves in the universe, and it reaches different parts of the universe and shifts is helping to shift them in a different way than other type of relationships.
Yeah. I mean, just speaking from my own personal experience, it's the connection that I have, which is similar to yours and the channels. It's very much like it makes you redefine what love is, because I think as human beings in you know, moving into fourth density slowly, we are at a point now where our definition of what love really is deepening, is really expanding. It's not, it's so much more than just a sort of 3D um, version, if you see what I mean.
Yes, of course, humans have definitely many different ways of how they would define love. You know, some would only say that it's basically sexual feelings. Some think that love is maybe more of type of like attaching themselves to other person and getting love, kind of like feelings of love or appreciation back to them. That is love, but love is really what is being created within you and your natural state of being. And also when I'm speaking about orgasmic energies, higher vibrational orgasmic energies are also something that is not usually experienced with the humans when they have let's say orgasm through 3D sexual kind of like stimulation.
Mm.
Usually that is only the type of orgasmic energy that they experience in those moments is usually only rebalancing their own chemistry and their own energies, and trying to release some of them as well.
Mm.
So when I talk about orgasmic energy is not exactly like what this type of energy is. It's different. It's certain type of orgasmic energy, but yet it's still, it doesn't permeate through the other dimensions, you know,
Mm. Yeah.
that type of yeah.
Would you say, to kind of summarize it, that that sort of energetic expression really serves the purpose to perform, to kind of like create a link or connection to oneness, to really open one's beingness to the maximum it can be?
Yes, definitely is important part of reaching a fuller
Mm.
connection with the source and being, yeah, as you call it, oneness, for example.
Mm.
And in some, you know, practices, they usually are trying to withdraw from the this type of
Yeah.
let's say stimulation or even cultivation of their sexual energy, but then it can create actually being spiritually stuck. So sexual energy as well has to be transmuted. It doesn't mean that a person needs to or have to have a lot of sex. It can be through celibacy as well, but it's some celibacy type of approach is as well like trying to completely shut down the flame. It should be actually uh, releasing and cultivating the flame and using it to kind of like spread through you, through your consciousness, and being able to release it without any, let's say, physical stimulation, you know,
Yeah.
because or the true orgasm can be released just by, for example, through breath work and your consciousness, and you need to spread it, you know, through yourself, because we as a Yahyel, we are very orgasmic beings as well. That's why sometimes some people who connect with us can get, let's say, horny very easily, and doesn't mean that we are approaching them in that way. They when they have a certain blockages, you know, they kind of like interact with our energy. They can get more stimulated to actually be called to, let's say, work with it more. It's not about projecting that energy outwards, but really trying to get more comfortable with the energies that are being stimulated and releasing them within your own consciousness
Mm.
through the blockages that have been there within you, that are kind of like suppressing those urges and so on. So for as well, for us as a species to meet physically, people need to go through releasing themselves in many different ways, spiritual ways, and big part of it is as well integrating their sexuality and healing it, and really letting it be what it's supposed to be. And people need that as well, start integrating them for more physical contact and conscious contact, but as well later, even for being able to handle our full physical presence as well.
Wow, that's really, really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, let's change tack for a moment. I'd like to ask you, just in terms of what you were talking about before and the activities that you're doing in the moment, what would an average day look like for you? I guess there is no average day, but can you give us an idea of the kind of things that you might get up to in comparison to perhaps someone's life here on Earth?
Yes, yes. And the problem is as well already with the question that, what is the day exactly, even
Mm.
like
Hmm.
the time frame, because I spoke through the channel before about our cycles of sleep. So
Hmm.
uh, our days are not that like separated with the very deep sleep like you experienced. So you have a specific, like a time frame when you are awake, then you are being reset. Uh, in the sleep, and then you kind of like start your day again. So we don't go even through this kind of cycles. I can go like um, for example, let's say day for me can be like a 3 days for you in a way. So it's like continuous different action. So let's say let's say separate it in between my rest times, you know
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the time frame. So um, what I would be doing, yeah, most average, let's say, day. Sometimes, of course, it can be different, but or not average, but what is most common, let's say, for me is. So I rest in my personal space. So we have every one of us has some personal space, but of course, personal space that doesn't necessarily mean as well that it's only for me. We can have a rest also in a more like a communal spaces, but they are suitable for this type of rest. So we are not being bothered by anyone really there. So it's more of like energetic personal space. So when I am rested and I continue, so basically I continue what I was just doing even before the rest, and it can be, for example, going into uh, working with the hybrid children, or like a processing a certain type of project, let's say. So it's a certain scientific, you could as well understand it, it has a certain scientific aspects as well with the and hybrid children and with the contact. So I go through a lot of data as well, for example, that we are kind of like uh, collecting and processing. So we have a lot of data that we need to in a certain way process, and not just me who is working on it. We are several, more people are working on that together, that we are kind of like going through data that is more of like a quantum field energies that we have collected, and it's being still kind of like upgraded, and we process certain information. We work through more of like as well like a holographic interfaces. We don't work only with like a, let's say, with our hands. It's within our consciousness. So we enter into the space with our consciousness, and we are processing it together. So I connect with other beings or people who are within the space as well, and I kind of like help shift and process a large informational data with them. So we are very much linked and synced together. So we create one bigger mind, and we are processing the information. And the let's say cloud of quantum information is basically about like what human consciousness is uploading there, what we are getting from you, what how it's interacting with the hybrid children, their consciousnesses, and a lot of different things kind of like merging all together. And we are as well using this space to kind of like scan probabilities, like where we are heading, how we can kind of like interact with the humans in the different, so new inspiration can come out of it as well. Plus, as I said, we are integrating new information into our already base, what we have. So it's kind of like uh, quantum type of artificial intelligence as well that is holding all this information together. It's not our, let's say, collective consciousness of Yahyel, but it's something different, and it's kind of like this. You could imagine it as well, like a non-physical brain. This AI, but this is a field of information, and it's kind of like holding all this information together. So I would, for example, do that. There is, of course, I can disconnect from the activity itself. For example, when we finish certain big action, so of course I wouldn't disconnect in the middle of like when it needs my support, my part of the consciousness. So when we finish certain activity, I can disconnect myself because I need to do or want to do something else. Then this is the biggest part of like what I am doing that is more demanding on as well my consciousness. Then, for example, I receive certain information from it as well, what I see there and so on, and I can then it's more of like leisure time that I spend with other beings, and I can deliver like what I have seen, what we have experienced. It can be understood on like more of like friendly type of conversations, but of course, let's say our hobbies and our work is all basically integrated together. So of course, when we are sharing information in between each other, it's as well giving them information towards other, let's say, part of their consciousness is connected with the work, let's say, that they get information from that that is necessary for their work as well. Then we can have some other type of activities that are more of like really leisure time activities, that we would go somewhere and, let's say, party in a certain way, that we would enjoy some fun activities, let's say. Then of course I spend sometimes with the hybrid children, and it depends. Sometimes I'm more focused on them than the other type of work. And when I, for example, when I, because you could as well imagine it like I have several different jobs at the same time. With the hybrid children, it's like when I go there, it's like I spend, when I'm already there, some quality time there. It's not like I shift in very small fragments in between different activities, different jobs, let's say. So when I'm there, I'm fully there. I uh, shift myself into different mindset, different mode, and different basically profession in a certain way. And with hybrid children, we can have a very simple interactions, like they can be of course like classes, but also it's just like being with the smaller children who are not still being fully educated in specific ways, but they are more like children in a kindergarten. So we are there, like looking for them, and sometimes playing with them as well, playing some games, inventing games for them as well. And let's say the other job that I was just talking about is also giving me some inspiration how I can help hybrid children to to bring some more of the new games, new type of knowledge to them, that they can interact with the human type of activities, or uh, knowing about more of like a human world. So it also gives me uh, ability to co-create with let's say other teachers in that space, new ways of like how we will interact with the hybrid children, what we will do. But as well, like if we would be if we wouldn't be like expanding what we are doing, of course we would get bored as well, and them as well. So it's always very natural to try to come up with new things and new
Mm,
explorations and so on. So sometimes we could go with the hybrid children somewhere as a group, kind of like field trip as well. So that is another thing. And so those are two biggest parts of my life,
mm,
what I'm doing.
okay.
And of course, each time I'm being called to spend time with the channeling, it's for me, it's not like very long time. It's a it's a very kind of like short uh, time for me to be here with you. But I know that you are experiencing long conversations with me. Also, some other times, when I speak with other people. But for me, it's kind of like smaller part of what I do,
Mm, right.
in regards to time. So of course, when I have option or a chance to speak with you and through this channel in this way, I always, of course, I'm very much looking
Mm.
forward to it. It's almost like a candies, very delicious candies for me that I don't get to eat that often in a way. So I am always very excited to interact with people.
Yeah.
And other times, of course, I have more of like a, let's say, personal type of activities, but there are as well less, because I like to. It's very natural for us to be interacting with each other and being in a collective. So other times, of course, I can be visiting, for example, humans as well on Earth, spending time with the channel here as well when she requires it as well, and sometimes, of course, on my own when I wish to be here. And yes, I would say that is like let's say biggest part of
Mm,
everything that I do. But sometimes, of course, I travel, um, but it is more rare that I would be traveling somewhere beyond your solar system, and for example, like exploring other races and having meetings that are more related with the other relationships that we have as a race. That is more rare for me to do. I'm mostly into like working and interacting with everything around you as a humans and hybrid children and our contact.
mm. Okay. Well, going back to what you were saying about channeling it, I mean, it might be a short time for you, but what you're giving us through all of these transmissions, if you like, is so valuable. So, we thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. Okay, we've gone through quite a few questions now, so I think I'll draw part one to a close, and then we can resume. There's a few more, so we'll resume that in part two. But thank you so much, ShayLa.
Yes, thank you very much as well for inviting me and sharing all this with you. I'm very excited, as I said, and I'm looking forward to continue with more questions.
Me too, can't wait.